Well, hello everybody. It is Jaxon here reporting some major breaking news. Alexandre Boulerice is resigning, I believe, on Monday. That's what they're speculating. Whether that is true or not, I don't know. But in the meantime, let's watch this CTV news panel. It might be hard for them to keep the seat unless they run someone like Avi. Because radicalism does realistically approach people. So they may be able to keep it if they run the leader or some very strong candidate. But if not, the Liberals will most likely win the by-election. Whenever that may be. I say that would be the same slot, same day when in the Beaches East York by-election, because Nate Scott-Smith also announced his pending resignation to run for the Ontario Liberal leadership. That's why Alexandre Boulerice is resigning to run for the far-left Quebec Solidaire leadership race and to run for Premier of Quebec next election. So let's watch the CTV News front bench.
Complete shock. He's already previously signaled his interest in provincial politics, but this is another gut punch to the already fragile party. NDP only has 6 seats in the House of Commons right now, and with Boulerice's departure, that'll bring him down to 5. So what does this all mean for the New Democrats? Let's bring in our front bench. Sabrina Grover was a federal Liberal candidate in the 2021 election. She's a senior advisor at North Star Public Affairs. Melanie Paradis is a former communications director to Aaron O'Toole. She's now the president of Texture Communications. Former interim NDP national director Carl Belanger also here. He's now the president of Traction Strategies. And CTV News national correspondent Rachel Aiello with us as well. Carl, we're going to start off with you. What does this do to the federal party?
Well, it's a blow. It's a huge blow. In fact, it could spell the end of the orange wave that happened under Jack Layton in 2011. He's the sole MP left from that era, and it will be very difficult for the NDP to keep this seat, but not impossible, and for the following reason. This is a seat where municipally they vote for left-wing Projet Montréal, provincially they vote for Quebec Solidaire, so it's not impossible that federally they keep voting left and stick with the NDP. But for that to happen, Avi Lewis will have to recruit somebody with a big name, a big following, a big media profile. You can't just run somebody that's been running for the NDP in adjacent ridings for years. You need to find...
Yeah, that is true. The only way they could keep it is if they run a strong candidate. Many people, Alexandre Boulerice won by 9 points last time. Many people were voting for it, but if they get just a lame candidate, not that much experience, who hops around ridings, they won't win it. But if they get a strong candidate, they would. Even if Avi Lewis rated it, possibly. You know, I don't like Avi Lewis, but I'm just speculating considering he's the leader. Anywho, let's watch.
Find a true star that can carry some weight in the riding if you want to keep that beachhead in Quebec. Because if you lose that beachhead in Quebec, you're not going to get it back anytime soon. That's going to be a big problem for the NDP. And if you don't have a hope in Quebec, then in the rest of the country, it's hard to take you seriously as an alternative government.
Yeah, that wave feels more like a trickle now. But Rachel, you've been covering the party extensively for the last year. Take a step back. What do you think that this means writ large for the NDP?
Well, I think the first question is going to be, will Avi Lewis run in that seat? My assumption is no, unlikely, although his French...
Yeah, I do agree with that too. I don't think he will. According to him, it don't seem like he'll run in the Beaches East York would either. I'm just speculating if he did run in it, perhaps he could win it. I don't think he will, to be honest, either.
French was the most proficient of the candidates in the race.
Low bar?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a question of, does he run there? If not, as Carl rightly points out, who do they find to run? And the kind of caliber of candidate that Lewis can recruit is going to be a big sign. And I also think, based on their improved performance in the by-elections in Ontario most recently, they're going to want to try to build on that momentum. But it could also be a by-election that is a test for Poilievre's popularity in the province of Quebec, although, as Carl again rightly points out...
Now, Conservatives have always been unpopular in Quebec. Not just Poilievre. In fact, that riding had an all-time Conservative high in recent years, with 7% of the vote. Usually they only get 3 or 4. So, that has nothing to do with Poilievre. In fact, he overperformed. However, next election, I say they'll probably get around the same. In the by-election, they'll probably get anything between 3 and 7%, which will be average. But the mainline news would say, oh, my party have done so bad, when that is the average, around 2 to 7%. That's the average. But anywho, let's continue.
Points out not necessarily a riding they would be expected to win. Who do the Liberals find? So I think it's interesting timing for Boulerice to do this now. And I also think that Avi Lewis is going to have some explaining to do, because he was very clear with reporters that he had asked Boulerice to stay. Clearly that please was met with, I'm so sorry, but no. And so what was it about Lewis's style of leadership that Boulerice was making?
Yeah, Boulerice never endorsed Avi Lewis. Although Boulerice is running for the far-left Quebec Solidaire. Although a lot of parties in Quebec essentially are all ideologically the same. Like you had the CIQ. Even the Liberals that are center-right, CIQ is center-right. Conservative Party there is center-right. Perhaps a few of those could be right-wing. For some members could be right-wing in them, but essentially center-right to right-wing. Liberals are center-right. The Separatist party is the BQ is the bloc, but basically yeah, like the BQ, just a provincial version. Is probably center-left. Then the Quebec Solidaire is left to far left. Anywho, let's continue.
Making it clear he didn't want to be there anymore, or had maybe potential more green political pastures in the province.
Yeah, and because Sabrina, he had already sort of hinted that this was maybe coming even before Avi Lewis was taking over. Maybe those pleas that Avi communicated was met with a no merci. But, you know, what does this mean in terms of what they can do, and like how important, to Rachel's point, is Lewis's response to this?
Well, I think it's so interesting to say, like, he's moving on to greener pastures, because it's not like he's moving on to, like, a party that's experiencing great success in Quebec right now, right? Quebec Solidaire, I believe, is still polling last within the Quebec race, and so he's going to have a tough time over there on that side. But when it comes to Avi Lewis, I think this is the question that a lot of people were asking during the leadership race, is does Avi have the chops to actually rebuild the party? Because it's not...
Now, in radical cities, he probably would get a lot of support. In some areas where they're more unionized NDP, once it flipped to Conservatives last time, they wouldn't be able to win over. Like, I don't think they'll be able to win over Windsor West again. Or the riding in London. Or the riding in Churchill, like some Indigenous communities, they might not. Or North Island, Powell River. They might be able to win back that one, possibly. But I don't think they will. In Skeena, Buckley Valley. Anywho, let's get back to this.
Not just about winning the next election or even, being competitive. They've got to become official party status still. Like, they have a long way to go, and a lot of that takes grassroots, like constituency, EDA work, where you're really on the ground. And I think the question is, does Avi Lewis have that potential? And I think this is going to be that test, because if you see people leave the party, you're going to have to really rebuild from scratch. And I think that's going to be the real test for him now.
One of the things that one of the images, Mel, that sort of comes to mind is like, okay, they have to rebuild the party, and they thought, well, we're going to strip it down to, the studs, right? That's what we have to do. We got to really rebuild this party. I mean, how much of this is now taken down to the foundation when you consider that Boulerice was somebody who was part of that orange wave, was part of, and was the only beachhead in Quebec at this point. I mean, what does Lewis have to do now?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely shut out of Quebec is going to be a very big hurdle for Avi Lewis to overcome. It's going to be difficult to rebuild there without a presence, without a francophone presence. I mean, I understand that there are some MPs and NDP.
Yeah, that is true. Usually there should be at least one member for Quebec from each party. I know the Greens don't have one, but that would make NDP do bad in Quebec in the long run, I think. They don't have a francophone member. because majority of the other candidates don't know French. We know Heather McPherson never do as much as Avi Lewis. Then there's 3 from BC, 1 from Manitoba, which is radical Jaxon. Anywho, stop getting distracted, Jaxon.
DP caucus who can speak French, but it's not the same as having a Quebecer. And how do you attract donors to help rebuild the party? I mean, if you don't have significant reach into Quebec, rebuilding the donor base from that province is really important to do, and it's very difficult work. I also think that, look, there's been a lot of rumors about more floor crossings to come. I think that this is going to be this.
Personally, I don't think there's going to be more floor crossings. They keep saying there's going to be rumors. There was 3 from Quebec in rumors. There were 10 from across the country. I mean, they're just saying that now to get people's hopes up, but I digress. That's not what we're talking about today.
The sort of thing that we see instead. That there will be resignations, retirements.
Yeah, I think she's right. I think there would be resignations. Although, this Alexandre Boulerice guy most likely supports Avi because he's running for a far-left party. But, anywho, I digress.
Of some MPs. And in the end, the Liberals will end up getting the seat still. So, the individuals might not be crossing the floor, but they are walking away knowing that their seat's probably going to turn red.
Now, I don't see also any Conservative MPs on the way out to resigning also. There could be some that just retire, perhaps, and don't want to betray their constituents, but that doesn't mean they have issues with the Conservative Party. They could resign for personal reasons, but I digress.
Yeah, and Carl, who do they find in Quebec? I'm not asking you to start, a recruitment campaign here, but you said they have to have a name. It's so important, and that really is part, especially of that riding, where you consider, where Rosemont is. I mean, people identify with the candidate more than they do with the party. How key is that to have a recognizable name, and is this a big opportunity for the Liberals?
Now, I don't agree that most people identify with the candidate over the party. Yes, it is good to have a good candidate, but I think people would just vote for their own party regardless.
Their beachhead in Quebec is also on the island of Montreal.
Well, I mean, the Liberals finished second the last 2 elections in the Rosemont. It used to be the Bloc that was in second place, but now it's been the Liberals for a couple of elections. But you can expect both these 2 parties to throw everything they can at it, if only to prevent the NDP from winning again. Because the Bloc does not want the NDP to win. They'd rather have a Liberal there than an NDP MP, because they know, and we've seen it in the past, that if the NDP grows in Quebec, it's mostly at the expense of the Bloc Québécois. So in terms of your question about who to find, well, you need to have somebody who has a media profile. You can find somebody that has some grassroots in that riding in terms of former provincial and municipal politicians. There's a lot of Projet Montréal people that could run in that seat.
You repeat federal candidates as well, some higher profile people running in nearby ridings.
But if I were them, I would try to find somebody that is not somebody that has ran before and lost before. I would try to find somebody like maybe a social media influencer, a media personality, somebody with a profile that is out there already progressive on the issues, that has not been associated with the...
Look, that was my next question, Mel. Thanks for ruining
my wife.
In the commercial, we were going over how much she's run in the past. I mean, to Rachel's point, I was thinking also of somebody like a Craig Sauvé who ran in that by-election on the island of Montreal a couple of years ago.
But he ran and lost.
Yeah.
And then he ran at the municipal level as as his own candidate, as a mayorship candidate, and lost very badly. I don't think Quebec Solidaire is the answer for Rosemont-La Petite-Patrie, but who knows? As I said before, it's...
I think they should, get a municipal politician if they want to win. Someone in municipal politics. But anywho, let's hear some more.
It's kind of a socialist republic there. They vote left wing, municipally, provincially, and maybe they'll keep at it federally, but you need to have a big name, and I don't think it should be Avi Lewis, to be honest.
Well, and basically for that party, you need to their only way to rebuild their footprint in the House of Commons is through getting elected, because they've made it clear they won't accept floor crossers. So the stakes are even higher for them to try to get to that official party status, because they're going to have to do it at the ballot box.
Yeah, and if Alexandre Boulerice is not moving on to greener pastures, you'd have to think that those orange pastures maybe aren't that green either for some people.
Because it's important to know, Quebec Solidaire is polling last, Sabrina pointed out, and the latest projection have them at 2 seats, including the seat that Boulerice is expected to run in. It's not like...
Yeah, he'll probably win his provincial seat. Once he runs provincially. Anywho.
Felt lonely at the federal level.
So that's it, guys. So that's that there. So let's see this one. I want to look at this one now. I don't know if this is the same one. It could be.
Some breaking news.
Nope.
The federal New Democrats are expected to lose another member, leaving them with
Oh,
5
just
seats in the House
a
of
quick
Commons.
breaking news.
Sources telling Quebec Info that Quebec NDP MP Alexandre Boulerice will resign from Parliament and quit the party so he can run provincially for a Quebec Solidaire. This would leave the NDP again with no MPs from the province of Quebec.
Alright, so that's just that. It's just a little quick thing. Anywho, guys, so I'm going to wrap up this video here. I hope you all have a good day, and God bless. Bye.